This episode is being sponsored by Plymouth Place. Imagine a private orchestra concert in your own backyard or early morning Tai Chi to center your day. This is Plymouth Place in LaGrange Park, Illinois. As innovators in inspired living, Plymouth Place caters to vibrant and changing lifestyles. With resort-like amenities, fabulous cuisine, and beautiful residences, including the Arboretum Villas, their new community for adults ages 62 plus. Learn how they make each day exemplary at plymouthplace.org or call 708-859-7152. Hi, I'm Catherine.
And hi, I'm Gail. And we welcome you to Women Over 70 Aging Reimagined, our award-winning weekly podcast. Please visit womenover70.com and consider joining Aging Reimagined Circle, our sustaining membership fund, so we may continue to inspire women to age with curiosity, creativity, and courage. Members enjoy monthly programming and probing discussions, and we hope to see you there.
And today we're delighted to be talking with Susan Cartland-Bode, age 85, who was born with the gift of music. Music and theater have been big drivers all of her life. Susan debuted at Orchestra Hall in 1978 and was a frequent guest soloist with the Lake Forest Symphony. These are in Illinois. She currently performs solos in Dole Hall at Plymouth Place, a resident community in LaGrange Park, Illinois. She sings with the Plymouth Place Singers and also directs the Singing Sages, a group that offers sing-along programs for residents in the upper levels of care. The joy of music has sustained Susan through her own hard times of divorce and illness, and she believes in the power of music for the aging mind. Susan is happily married to her husband of almost 40 years, Hank Bode. They have a blended family with 5 married children, 10 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Susan and Hank have been living happily at Plymouth Place since 2019, and as Susan said, the best decision they've ever made. So welcome, Susan, to Women Over 70, and we thank our premium sponsor, Plymouth Place, for referring you to us.
Well, and thank you very much. I was delighted when Lisa, who is our marketing director for the Arboretum Villas, said that you would be calling me. And this is a whole new experience for me. So I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with you today. So thank you.
That's great. Well, let's have you provide some context for us, because you've been engaged with music and theater in so many ways, most of your life. So can you give us a glimpse into all these different ways you're engaged?
Well, I think going back to the very beginning, my mother and dad said that I came out singing. So I've been involved with music since I was very little. I think my parents were not at all musical, but the fact that I crawled up on the piano bench and started playing music on the piano that I had heard on the radio. This was I was probably 3 or 4 years old at the time. So fortunately, my mom had very good friends in musical circles. So she made sure that I got the very best instruction possible. I realize looking back now that my dear folks never took a vacation, never did much for themselves. We were very modestly situated, despite living in River Forest. And I think it was because they knew how important it was for my sister and me to get, the very best instruction. So I started piano lessons when I was 5. I added violin lessons when I was 8, and my parents bought me a full-size violin. So I was always propping my hand, elbow on the table. And then I started voice lessons when I was a sophomore in high school, but I had been singing all along. So singing was really my most important thing. So I went ahead to have multiple degrees, and, all this performance experience, which I will not go into, but I would have to say that at this point in my life, I realized how much joy the singing and having these groups that go to the memory care and to assisted living and all means to me. And for all of the important things that I did in my past, right now, it's just the best. I'm just loving it. We do enjoy Plymouth Place so much, and the opportunities for resident activities are numerous. If you have an idea, you want to start something, by George, they'll give you a staff member and you can do it. So that's kind of where I'm focused right now, and it's a great pleasure.
So what do you think the residents get out of your gift of singing?
Well, I think there are two levels. First of all, I do sing some solos, and at 85, I'm happy that I can still do that. I never dreamed that that would be possible, but fortunately, I had very good voice training, and so I've been able to preserve my instrument. But I think the thing that they get out of it is bringing back memories of their past. I try to sing familiar music, even if I'm doing a solo for a worship service. And so it's a chance for them to revisit, their past. I know definitely in the memory care and the assisted living, and to a lesser degree at the assisted living level, those with memory issues, the fact that we sing songs like Home on the Range, How Much Is That Doggy in the Window, the patriotic songs, God Bless America, and so forth and so on, really just lights up their life for just a few minutes. And it just, our group, both the singing sages as well as the Plymouth Place Singers, seem to bring joy to the residents. So it's just a thrill to do.
It's wonderful. You play the fiddle also?
Well, I would play the violin for many years, and then I put it aside because, of course, singing was taking up a lot of time. And then I think I was about 75, I decided it was time to do something kind of fun. So I wanted to, kind of brighten up my brain and brighten up my life. So I dug out my violin and I tuned it up, and we have a vacation home on Cape Cod, and so there's a tradition of Irish fiddle music out there. And so I took some fiddling lessons, and then I was able to go to the sessions and just fit in. And the good news about fiddling is that if you don't get it the first time around, you can get it the next time. And it's a very congenial and collegial group of people that do this. The only problem was that I found that these sessions start about 9:00 at night, which is kind of our bedtime. So with that, I decided to put together programs of Irish music where I would sing and then I would play the fiddle. And, it was just a lot of fun. I did it for about 4 or 5 years. And then I had breast cancer surgery, and I decided on a mastectomy. And so with that, it was kind of painful when I tried to play the fiddle again. I put some padding there and it dulled the sound. So basically, I put my fiddle away again, and I have just, it's just still there in the closet, and maybe I'll pull it up one day.
Oh my.
Were you playing the Irish music at Cape Cod, or also did you bring that to Plymouth Place?
I did bring it back. Well, this was before Plymouth Place.
So
it was in Oak Park, where we lived at the time, in Oak Park and River Forest. And I was performing for church groups and for the same thing that I've always done with my singing groups. I had a group called the Joyful Singers. My gosh, all these singing names, it's kind of hard to keep them straight. But this was a group of women that I put together just because somebody said, could you do a program of Christmas music? And I thought, I don't want to do this by myself. So I called all my choir friends and anybody that I knew in music. So we had a group of 10 women who would give programs. So with that, I had the Irish music that I added to the program. And so I don't know, it's just been a mixed bag all along.
Do you and Patty Holman sing together?
Yes, we do. I feel very privileged. Thank you for asking, because Patty is a very dear friend, and he is such an exceptional human being. Not only is he a wonderful singer, but he is just one of the nicest persons and I've never met a tenor that was more congenial and so nice to work with. Usually tenors are a little ta-ta, and so Patty is certainly doesn't fit that rule at all. At any rate, Patty and I are going to be doing a Christmas program. It's our 4th annual holiday sing-along. And so we have done this along with Doreen Sturba de Jour, who is our chaplain. And we'll be doing this on the 20th of December. But Patty and I also do some other work. He is often the cantor at the church services, the Catholic worship services where I play. And so I play for him, and then sometimes Doreen will play and Patty and I will sing. So it's been a real pleasure getting to know Patty.
So tell our audience what Patty does at Plymouth Place.
Well, Patty is the director of, I think it's called, well, it is the director of development and outreach financially.
Yeah.
And he is basically the head of the fundraising for Plymouth Place, but he's so much more than that, because Patty just appears, he walks the halls and pops out of his office, and he just knows how to schmooze everybody, and we all love
Right.
Patty, that's for sure.
That's right.
Anyway.
So let me just switch gears a second, because when we talked before, Susan, you told me that you were taking a memoir writing course, and you're looking at your life in 4 acts.
Well, guess what?
Now, have you added another one?
Oh, well, yes. I'm basically writing War and Peace. My husband did kind of the Reader's Digest version, and he sent his off to the kids, and they all loved it, and it was about 80 pages long, including photographs. I decided, since I hadn't reviewed this in a while, what were my 4 acts until I got to my 5th act, which looks like I haven't written yet. I have one on my schooling, all my educational places. I have another one on careers, another one on homes that I lived in. There have been 11 moves in my adult life, and that keeps you pretty good at remaking curtains, and I could turn curtains into valances and what have you, and also meeting nice people wherever we moved. And then my retirement and what's next is the 5th act. So I still have that work to do. If I could just stay home long enough, maybe I could get this done while I can still remember.
Can you give us a hint about what you might put into the next act?
Oh my goodness. Well, our retirement, Hank and I were very fortunate to be able to spend a lot of time traveling. That was one of the things when we met in 1985, that we determined that we both loved to travel. So he had some business trips that I was able to go along. And then after retirement, we really focused on just getting around and seeing the world. And we had friends that we visited in many countries. And I think we've gone to almost all the continents, except he's been to Africa. I have never made it to Africa and to Antarctica. And I think the other one, we never made it in the United States to North Dakota. And we were all set to go to North Dakota, get off the plane, kiss the ground, and then pop back on the plane so we would have visited all 50 states. However, COVID interfered with this. And so we're still wishing we may make it still.
Well, I grew up in Minnesota, so I know something about North Dakota.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and the Teddy Roosevelt National Park, and yeah, it's worth doing more than just kissing the ground.
Okay, well, we're a little
kept secret.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. I'll keep that in mind.
So, Gail, you look like you're ready to say something.
Well, you spoke a moment ago about breast cancer.
Yes.
And I know you've had some issues in your life, including breast cancer and divorce and illness, and your husband has too. How are you thinking about that? It seems like your life has just gone on, and you have such verve, and you see life from a very delicious point of view. So
I thank you for asking about that, Gail. I would have to say that Hank and I both have tried to view our setbacks, with divorce and other physical illnesses now, with where it can be a learning lesson. I think probably the worst thing that happened to me was when I broke my kneecap. And that was just awful, because Hank became my nurse during my convalescence, 8 weeks with my leg in a cast. And it was just a really hard time. I think it was even worse than the breast cancer. That seemed to be, I had such good support. And I guess that's the key, is through all of these things, I always have tried to say, okay, I'm going to learn from this experience and try to grow in my life and to understand something new about my situation, about me and those I relate to. And then I think, I don't know, Hank and I both have a very strong faith. We're both been active in our churches because I was a church choir singer, of course, for many years, as was he. And so our faith matters to us very much. Also, we have a wonderful family. And, they've stepped up to the plate. And then friends. I have friends going back to kindergarten. We're still in touch. I then added another group in college, sorority sisters. Until rather recently, we were still getting together every other year. And so I just have always had this wonderful support system. So I figure you can either stay home and feel sorry for yourself, or you could get up and get out and learn from the experience and try to make the best of it. So that's it.
It sounds like you find yourself in good company with other residents at Plymouth Place. Is that, you have many people with that similar attitude?
Absolutely. I think, this issue of ageism was something that I know that's the point of your podcast. And I was reflecting on ageism. And I'd have to say that since we've been at Plymouth Place, I have really never experienced ageism. The staff is so kind to us. They never treat us. They never look down on us. They always are engaged and working so hard behind the scenes to make life work for us. And I find the other residents, certainly there are people with health issues, and there are some people who are, kind of maybe life has given them a tough life, and they aren't maybe the most positive. But for the most part, I find people here are just making it. We do more than just make it. We have fun. And there is a group of, particularly in the independent living, of folks that go to things, they go out. There are excursions, there are trips, there are meals out. Then there are so many activities physically for the mind, body, and spirit during the course of the day that you could just be out every hour without ever resting. So I have to pace myself. That's something that I work hard. Hank and I try not to get overbooked, because the calendar comes out at the beginning of the month and we look at everything. And I decided I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight all of the things that spark joy in my heart. And I went through with my yellow pencil, and everything on the calendar sparked joy. And I realized that I couldn't do everything. So anyway, but the residents here are a very interesting mix of people from various socioeconomic levels, a lot of teachers, people in education, people interested in learning. Politics are really never discussed, and that's probably a very good thing in this contentious world we live in. So people kind of know who's on which side of the political fence, but it's not really an issue. And we have a social justice program now here with a prison, a ministry to write letters to prisoners. I mean, there's just people move in here and they come in with their background and their ideas, and suddenly we've got a new program scheduled. So we're fortunate. We do there's a group that's interested in cuisine and of eating healthy foods, and more going to the vegetarian or plant-based meals. And so there's a group that supports that. So there's just no end. The writing group, of course, Catherine's, there's a travel writing group that's still going on. There's a radio group. There's a wonderful gentleman who's 97 years old, and he wrote all these radio scripts back in the day. And so that's a new group that's just started, where people go and they read these scripts that are like Fibber McGee and Molly and Jack Benny, and it's just out.
So, Susan, besides your singing, which I know you're very involved with, and the memoir writing, what else do you gravitate to? What other activities?
Well, when I have spare moments, because I am playing for at least 2 worship services of Catholic worship mass, and then I play 2 Protestant services a month. Plus, my singing group goes to 3 levels of care, and that's that takes, I have to practice. I can't just sit down and have it come out. So then the music is taking a great deal of time, but I am involved with the trying to think these different activities. I love the programs where there's life enrichment kind of things that I try to make. Hank and I both make as many of those. There are movies, or we have movie night twice a week, and there are some fun movies. And then, of course, there's a new series by a former professor from Maine who has a series on inventors, the great inventors, and we've gone every week. And then he's going to pick up, he has all these DVDs that he shows, and then we talk about it before and then what these inventors did and how it affected our lives. And then afterward, the next series is going to be on composers and their history. So it's just endless. I wish I could, if you looked at a schedule here, you would be as I think impressed as we are.
Sounds like a liberal arts curriculum.
Well, it is. It really is. And I think there are courses on history and there are courses. There's an art connoisseurs, and we've been going through the various artists, particularly from the Impressionists on, and she's just getting into Dadaism and so forth. And she has wonderful credentials. She's educated at the Art Institute. There's a weaving group, a knitting group, all kind of just. I don't participate in all of those things. I did try at arts and crafts. They're constantly having art classes. Hank is really getting to be. He's really into his watercolor painting. They have an excellent teacher, and he just makes certain that he gets there all the time. And I just think that there's just something for everybody. But they do talk about this keeping the mind, body, and spirit. There are exercise classes of every kind, Tai Chi, yoga, muscles in motion, and then there's aquatic classes where the new facility will have a beautiful swimming pool with a jacuzzi, and they are going to expand the aquatic classes there too. So there are people that do water aerobics, so that's very exciting. So it's just you can keep busy for a moment of the day.
So, Susan, you had mentioned to me before that your family is very important to you. And other than just saying you have your dear husband of 40 years and your children and grandchildren, great. What would you like to tell us about your family?
Oh, my goodness. Well, when Hank and I got together in 1985, we had grown children. I have a son and a daughter, and Hank has 3 boys. And so it wasn't long before these children of ours who were in college and out of college at the time, they went forth and they got married, and then they multiplied, and that's why we have these 10 grandchildren. And we really try to get together with them as often as we can. Right now, however, my son lives in Hawaii with his wife. My daughter lives in Texas, and then the various grandchildren live, in the same places. And then we have a family in Florida, a family in 2 families in Chicago area. So we get together as often as we can. And then when all else fails, we get the Zoom calls, and thank goodness for Zoom and for FaceTime. So we stay in touch. We're a very close-knit family. And then because everybody loves Cape Cod so much, most of the family members get out there for the summer. And they had a number of them that were there, had for a month. And, we have a couple of folks that are near retirement. And everybody seems to be working from their computer these days, so they could go to Cape Cod and, get on their computer and carry on their business. So, and then go out on the boat and have a little fun in between.
Are you and Hank able to go to Cape Cod?
Well, we were until last year. Hank had been going to Cape, this particular place on the Cape. It's called Secaucet Island, and he began going there when he was 2 years old. Hank is a Bostonian and a Rhode Islander. So his folks started going there many years ago, and we had a kind of it was called like a fishing cottage where it was one place, and then they bought up some other property. So we now have a rather large home that can accommodate. I think the most we ever slept was 22, but I must say that was with every possible kind of bedroll and army cot, etc. People were practically on top of each other. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, because of Hank's Parkinson's, he's not able to travel anymore for particularly long distance travel. So last year was our last year. We said goodbye, and now we look at the pictures, and the family calls us when they're out in the boat, or going to the lobster roll place, or whatever, all of our favorite haunts. So we're still feeling, and I stay in touch. There's a book group out there of women. I must say they have a very active women's group. It's a Secaucet Island Book Club. And these women are forces to be reckoned with. They have taken on many a project, and they are avid readers. And so I try when I can to read. And then we have a Zoom meeting where Wonderful. We talk about the book.
I'm exhausted.
Well, you're my role model, that is for sure.
Not at all. And the thing is that at Plymouth Place, there are people who are so inspirational. I was just with this 97-year-old woman. I came from a little meeting, and she is just so perky, and she lives by herself. And there is a woman of 107, I believe. Marianne Gibbs is our most elder member, and she is very alert. And after the Christmas program last year, the holiday sing-along, lo and behold, there was a thank you note on my shelf outside the door. I couldn't believe Mary Jane took time to write us a thank you note. But there are just people like this, and the men too. Not as many men, I must say. We have noticed that the women certainly are outliving the men for the most part, but the women and those who are in independent living, and the folks in the second floor, our assisted living, are also, a lot of them are very mentally alert. They may have physical problems, but they're still, trucking along, and they'll get their walkers out, and they come down and join us for meals and for the programs. Oh, we have another thing called Dole Hall Presents. I forgot to say that. That's a program of about every 2 weeks, and we bring in professional folks. The committee who organizes this. We've had lyric opera people. We've had all kinds of musical and theatrical impersonators who will do it. Like we had somebody do Eleanor Roosevelt, and Harry Truman wasn't too long ago. So those are evening programs. But there was also music in our pub every Tuesday, and sometimes alternate Saturdays. They have pub music, and these are people connected with the Old Town School of Folk Music. And now they've introduced another group, another program on Sunday afternoons, which is very popular. Sunday afternoon was kind of a quiet time before. And now every other week, there's a program in Dole Hall. We just saw the Illinois Philharmonic Orchestra. They had a wind quintet that performed last Sunday. So we keep busy.
Very, very, very. Well, my goodness, is there we need to close in just a minute, but is there anything else you would like to share with our audience about? You've said quite a bit about how you kind of your philosophy of life and how you think about aging. Was there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, at this point, I think I'm about out of conversation. I don't know that I can add anything more except to say thank you for what you're doing, because we know that this is so important for us to keep talking about this issue. I'll share one final experience with me when I felt old. I was coming back from a trip to Texas. There was a family gathering down there, and I got to O'Hare Airport, and I called the Uber to come and pick me up. Well, I waited there. I had my suitcase and my carry-on, and I was really bound with my luggage. So I stood there on the curb, and then I finally called Plymouth Place, and I said, do you have a telephone number for me to call? So I called the number, and lo and behold, the poor driver had a daughter that had fallen down the steps. He had the only car, so he was on the way to the hospital. Well, you can't get too mad about that. So I called a second Uber, and then that Uber had a man who talked to me in a foreign language, which unfortunately I could not speak, but he was talking about cars and what color the car was and what color the license plate. Well, I was standing there and everybody around me was at least 10 feet tall. It was rush hour. Everybody was in a hurry. And I stood there feeling very old and decrepit. And then I'm really just invisible. And then I called the third, and I had a lovely man who kind of calmed me down, because by that time I was in tears. I thought I was going to have to sleep at the Hilton Hotel on one of the couches, because 3 hours had passed for what should have been a half an hour ride. So that was my experience when I really noticed ageism out there. For those folks who are still out there in the real world, I live in a little bubble here, and I'm very grateful that I don't have to cope with that every day.
Well,
Thank you.
it's delightful. Thank you, Susan, so much for being with us today. We really enjoyed talking with you.
Well, thank you so much for what you do, and it's been my pleasure. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Well,
Bye.
listeners, we thank you for your loyalty. Because of you, our numbers are growing all across the country and overseas. This is a good thing. Still, we need more subscribers and reviews on Apple Play and YouTube. So support Women Over 70. Join Aging Reimagined Circle and let your voice be heard. Help us change the conversation about women aging.